I was told so many stories, and I kept them in my stomach. Lies, the truth, fake smiles, of blood money. I lost cause at a loss for words, trying to keep my tone down. What I'm saying's absurd, unusual, context unique, buried in the depths of metaphorical speech. A hidden message. Pull the infinite strings, reconnect the ends, and pretend to justify the means. Parallel, we're reading the same page. Turn days into literature, simple as loose change. It was perfect, or at least that's what I'm told. Courage is dead, spending my life fearing the cold. I was useless, feeling like dead weight, plain as day. Introducing when handshakes. Originality was spread across the board. Intricate self-worth, I'm searching for more. I swear rain doesn't fall on my fields. It takes a drought to avoid all the secrets that I concealed. Hidden within the dust-covered land behind the city. The street lights are dim and the fog is always walking with me. It's nothing new, my eyes adjusted to the scene. Flickering on and off, it's just the daily routine. I grab a hold of time, forcing not to leave. The weeds grow sporadic in my home is where I'm quarantined. Thinking less, move the top to where the fuel rests. Giving all I got to breathe life to the common sense. Moving the top to where the fuel rests. Giving all I got to breathe life to your silhouette. Silhouette, 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 silhouette.
Right, hiya, welcome back. Okay, now welcome to the last out of this 6 video series on some little upgrade stuff for Penny Scrambler. It's just me and the tripod today. Penny's at work. It is a Friday afternoon, ready to film this for weekend upload. So this was the last thing we said we'd do right at the end, something a little bit exciting, something that is just a little upgrade on the shocks over and above the tech shocks we put on something like 3 years ago. They are superb, they've been amazing, there are no criticisms on them whatsoever, but the principle is we want to upgrade to something a little bit more exotic and see whether something that you spend a lot more money on over and above the likes of tech shocks actually gives you better performance for your money, or whether it doesn't. So this will kind of be an ongoing thing. We're going to change these today. It's extremely easy to do. You know how to do this. It's 4 bolts, job done. But I want to talk just quickly about the way that they're bolted on, how to bolt them on correctly, because shock absorbers are as important as brakes and chains and sprockets and everything else we've done in this series so far. This has been a pretty high intensity series. We've upgraded the editing, as I hope you've noticed. We've put something like 16 hours or something into the post-production of each of these videos you're watching, and mainly because we wanted this series to endure. We want to step forward to what kind of videos we might be making in 3 or 4 years time, when hopefully these videos are still being watched. We've done rear brakes, disc and pads, front brakes, disc and pads. We've done chain and sprockets, and we've done the oil and filters change, plus of course all the brake fluids at the same time. So we think that that's the kind of thing that is real meaty top stuff that you can use for yourself when you might normally hand that job over to a garage and pay quite a lot of money for it. Most garages, decent dealers, are charging up to £100 an hour now for labour. So this job's, everything we've done so far, all these jobs might cost you something like £700 or £800 in labour alone, let alone the parts. So there's a lot to be gained from knowing these things yourself. So anyway, enough chat. We're going to do this now, get these shocks out of the box, show you what we've bought to improve on, if it's possible, the mighty tech shocks we put on a little while ago. The show will go.
Focus on every trip, reaching for the sky becomes harder with every hit till it clears. The smoke settles on all my fears. Rain drops and covers the remains of every tear that I flip. See my eyes focus on every trip, reaching for the sky becomes harder with every hit. Every hit, every hit, every hit.
Right, okay, on them there for you, so you can see. Piggyback shocks. Hands up who doesn't like piggyback shocks, yum. Right, so these are YSS double G shocks. You get them from Wimoto, they're the sole distributors, so that's the only place you'll get them. And we bought these along with all the other stuff, and performance stuff we bought for Penny Scrambler. And by way of a little explanation, the reason why we're putting YSS shocks on, where there are currently tech shocks, is as simple as this. We want to improve the handling of Penny's bike. We want to invest in some more exotic suspension to give us that finer adjustments and tuning so that the bike can improve its handling a little bit further. Way back when we first bought this bike, we realised that actually the 865 Scrambler itself was a woefully bad handling bike. It truly was awful. Right from the very start, the tyres that they fit on them, the trail wing tyres, are just lethal. They're horrible in the wet and they're not even that good in the dry. So very quickly we realised the wheels and tyres had to go. They're only a 130 rear tyre, so we upgraded to these Supermoto rims. We've got Talon hubs, dirt style rims, stainless spokes because they rust for a past time. I think the factory spokes rusted inside about 3 months, just awful. But everything like that can be adjusted. Doesn't mean it's a bad bike. We found that changing to these things gives you the option to fit what you want. So we invested quite a bit, put these rims on. It gives us a 180 back tyre and it just fits in, honestly. Literally the chain clearance on this, like it was when we first fitted these tyres, is about 6 mil, but that's fine. 180 back tyre with a 120 front tyre with a 17 inch as well, so you've got the same geometry as any of the sports bikes or road bikes out there. If you look at your 675 Triumph Speed Triple or Street Triple rather, that's got the same geometry as well, 180, 120, 17. So we've already addressed that. The 19-inch front wheel made it ponderous and slow handling. We've improved that no end, we really have. The next thing was the suspension. The factory shocks were just awful, absolutely dire. They were oversprung, underdamped and rusted while you're looking at them, so they're just awful. They're in a box in the loft and they'll stay there. The tech shocks we fitted were an absolute revelation. They truly were. They handled better. They didn't bounce up and down. They sat nice and composed. You've got rebound damping on these, and for £140 they are truly underpriced, and they are still that much underpriced to this day. If you're interested in some really good value cheap shocks for your bike, 139 quid, honestly you will improve leaps and bounds over and above any of the factory stuff that comes on your 865 Triumph. You truly will. And they're still now working on lines of products for the new Triumphs as well, but we wanted to go a stage further. Our Penny Pit Stop's not called Penny's Pit Stop as a nickname for no reason. She rides in a spirited way, and we live in a rural area where there's lots of bendy lanes with bumpy roads that aren't in the best condition. As they say in this country, we don't drive on the left of the roads, we drive on what's left of the roads, because they're truly awful. Potholes, bumps, runoffs, there's all sorts of problems out in the countryside, and you really need to have a bike that stands up to it. Penny likes to push her bike to the ragged edge. She likes to find the limit because that's where the fun factor is, and I think in something like this that's a lot closer than it would be in a street triple, which is why she said so many times, I don't want a street triple, I don't want a sports bike. She had a Yamaha R6 years ago and found it really boring because you're always riding it around at 10% of its ability. Something like this you can ride to 90% of its handling ability and enjoy it at that. That's really logical. I like that. She's a clever girl. So in that sense, we want to push that 90% a bit further. We want to push this bike so it handles that little bit better still. We've got the right tyres, we've got the right spec and shape of tyres, we've got the EBC brakes so it stops now, we've got chain sprockets. Well, a lot of that was looks because, you know, Penny's a girl, she likes a bit of bling, but we want to upgrade the shocks. We're going to do the forks another time, possibly looking at upside down forks for it in the future, it depends, I'm not sure, but at the moment we want to do the shocks, and that's what we're doing with these. The tech shocks have been great and there is no knocking them, honestly, but if you want to upgrade, there are so many options until you actually look and you realise there's not. Actually, there really isn't. You can go to Öhlins if you like, and Öhlins shocks, obviously they're legendary, aren't they? But if you look at the basic cooking version of Öhlins, which is what you get on your standard XJR Yamahas from the factory, they're not that special, really. They're okay, they're finished all right, but they're not a great specification. What I wanted was a shock that has got a great specification, not something that's necessarily gold plated and yummy yum and looks delicious, and that's why we opted for these. These YSS shocks are made in Thailand, and incidentally that's exactly the same place your Bonneville is made, before you criticise. And I like that. I like the fact that they're not posh, they're not a flashy brand, but they do have an enormous amount of adjustability and tunability, and that's why we've invested over 500 quid in a pair of shocks, because we're hunting for the ability to improve the performance of this bike. So when Penny rides it, she can push it even harder without it tying itself in a knot, because she has several times found the ragged edge and the limit of the tech shocks, and that's not because they have a limit that's unacceptable. They're perfectly great for the bike. It's just that she rides like a loony now and again, and really and honestly she should be on a sports bike, but that's the way it goes. These shocks hopefully will give us that. You've got, just like on the tech, you've got the rebound compression at the bottom for the damping, the rebound damping adjustment for the bottom in a standard click ring, which you get on many top shocks now, but you've also got compression as well. In the back here you've got a screw in the back so you can adjust your compression damping at the same time. They also got the standard twist ring at the top, which gives you preload, and at the same time, which I think is quite cool, and again something you get on the tech shocks, is you get an adjustable bottom eyelet. Now this bottom eyelet can screw in and out by 10 mil 10mm is about the adjustment you get on this particular set of shocks. We asked them, they said to us, you know, if you order a set of shocks for your scrambler, you know you'll get them that long because it's a scrambler, that's the right length for them. So we explained, no, they're only 310mm, that's what we've got here. Can we have 310mm? They said, yeah, no problem. So if you've got a specific length of shock that you want, contact Wemoto and they'll order them in the correct length. And you still, even then, will get your 10mm of adjustment. Some shocks, if you've got them a bit longer, they can have up to 30mm of height adjustment, which is pretty cool. So I like that. You can actually set the ride height itself, not just the preload. That's something different. But I don't want to get involved in it too much. I just want to bang them on the bike and show you what they look like in place, and then we'll do a little bit more talk at the end. These come incidentally with a 2-year warranty, which is pretty cool. You get a warranty card in the box with them, stamped with a date on it. So they are dated from the date that you bought them, incidentally. Here we are. They're quality tested and passed on the 7th of March, and we ordered these on, I think it was something like the 4th or the 5th. So these weren't even made when we ordered them, and then they've been made and sent out. So you get 2 years warranty from the date they were made, and also a full set of instructions, which really, honestly, they're only 2 pages long because that's how little instructions you need to fit shocks. It's only 4 bolts. Well, look, I'm going to shut up waffling, stick them on the bike, and when they're on, I'll show you a little bit close up what they look like. Let's get going. Right, you want the wheel just touching, so you want it off the ground to take the weight off the shocks, but just touching, literally, so that they're not actually hanging on the shocks as well. So you want the shocks to be able to just slide off. This is just about one of the easiest jobs you'll do. Two bolts, ain't hard, is it? Now when you put them in, you should fit them with lots and lots of thread lock, because obviously the shock absorbers themselves, as they move up and down, they move, they wiggle. These end lugs, both ends, they wiggle very slightly all the time, and that has the ability to gradually undo the bolts. So always thread lock your suspension mounting bolts, always. Thread locked in for all this time. So it's an 8mm thread, 8mm by 1.25, so 8mm fine. And just for the sake of it, I run a tap down that casting. This is a welded lug on the frame that's got a thread inside it. It's steel, so it's strong, but what I tend to do is run a tap down it to get all the old thread lock out and make that nice and free running for the new thread lock. Remember, old thread lock is your enemy. It's not going to be any good because it will actually bung up the thread. It becomes rock hard, it interferes with the thread and can actually damage it. So clean it out. You don't need to use oil or lubricants or anything in there, because when we put the new thread lock in, if there's copper slip or something in there, cutting agent, cutting oil, WD-40, anything, it will prevent your new thread lock from locking the thread. Remember, thread lock is a glue, and if you're going to glue anything to anything, the two surfaces must be dry and free from dirt or grit. You know, you read the instructions. So when you're cutting into this to clean it out, it goes right through the bike, this does. I just want to go in as far as that will take me. Yeah, so when you're cleaning them out, contrary to nearly all engineering principles of thread cutting and repair, do it bone dry, completely dry, just carefully and dry. Do a couple of 3 passes on it so it's nice and free running. Right, just ready to put these on, and what you get, I just want to talk a bit more about this adjustment. You get this adjustment in height at the bottom, so that's then done, and then you just back off the little knock nut, and that bottom lug, the bottom mounting, just unscrews completely. But if you take a look there, there's a little hole, a little drilled hole, and in the instructions that is marked as the maximum marker that you can draw it out by. So do not unscrew any more than that. So don't have it out there because it's too far out. And this is obviously to ensure that you have enough threadage inside the shock for strength, which means effectively, if I wanted to, I could adjust in by that much thread, which is 10 mil. So there we are. I can make them 10 mil shorter than they currently are. They're 310 mil. I can reduce those down to 300 mil, but you can get a 30 mil adjustment. Talk to Wiimoto when you order some, if you order some, and they'll give you the relevant adjustment. And all I'm going to do is set both of those the same, so that one shock isn't working harder than the other, because that would be silly. Obviously, on suspension mounting bolts, things like your correct torque settings are vital. They really are. So we use blue thread lock. This is just a brand, but what you're looking for is the word removable. There it is. Removable thread lock, because you want to take them off now and again. And put it on the thread, not in the hole. Don't squirt loads in the hole, because if it all sits down in a blind hole, then you wind the bolt in, you hydro-lock it. So it will sit against the thread lock and it won't go in. And then you've got to get it out and get it all out of the way. Just put a drop on the thread itself. It's liquid, very wet, and as it goes in, it will take the thread lock in with it. And then do it up as quickly as you can. The thread lock's going to set as soon as it can. And on these, 28 Newton meters, one click, no more. That's it. So you've got your suspension fitted, everything's looking good, you're happy with it, very happy with it. All you need to do now is set it up. A basic setup so you can go out on the road and you can tune it exactly how you want it. That's the reason we spent so much money on these, because we want to go and get that suspension finely tuned so that it gives Penny a better ride. Now, you've got three methods of adjustment, and getting them to work as a team, all three in the right place, that's when you get that perfect suspension setup. Now, the first thing is preloading the spring. So if you're an ordinary size rider or a little bit lighter like Penny, just set it to the first centimetre. That's all I do. You've got this finely tuned thread and the body, and you turn this collar. They give you a little metal pin like that. You put into the hole, that gives you a handle, and you just adjust it like that. And this particular bike, like a few of them that I've seen, you get a little Allen key, and on the inside there's a little grub screw. You just undo the grub screw. It's in one of these holes, and it just grub screws against the thread. So you just grub screw that, open it up, adjust that to where it needs to be, and preload the spring. You only put loads of preload on when you're carrying either a pillion on the back or loads of luggage, or both. Then you wind that spring down, and when you compress it in, you make it a little bit stiffer. Simple as that. So once you set the preload, then you've got the damping itself. On the bottom, you're damping for rebound. That's the amount of damping against it boinging back open again, is this collar at the bottom. Back it right off, all the way to one end, all the way till it stops clicking and stops moving. There, stop. Then come to the first click and count the amount of clicks all the way to the other end. I've done that, and there's 30 clicks on this adjuster. So I go up 15, 2, 3, 10, 12, 15, there we are. 15 clicks, which is right in the middle. There's 15 more in that direction, and I just took 15 out that direction. So I've set it right in the middle. Do the same with the screw at the top. Take your screwdriver, pop it in the screw at the top, wind it all the way to one end, come all the way out, count the amount of clicks and remember them, and go in half as many. So you set both of those ranges of adjustment, bang in the middle, bang in the middle. And that way, when you go out on the road, you know you're right in the center. If you need it a bit more, a couple of clicks upwards. It tells you on the shock what is hard and what is soft. Same as on this ring at the bottom, it's got H and S, hard and soft, with a little arrow. Ain't hard, is it? It really ain't. You can just do that with your eyes closed. Simple. Now, I want to talk very briefly and finally about this progressive spring thing, because I saw someone the other day on the net explain a progressive spring back to front. Bless him. I don't think he meant any harm, and I certainly don't think he's an idiot. He just got it back to front. He was suggesting that these coils are stiffer and these coils are softer. They aren't. It doesn't work that way. Some compound springs have that. A compound spring is where you get literally two springs, one on top of the other. You get a big fat hefty one and a little wimpy one on top, and they have a flat plate between them, and you literally have two springs doing the work. That's known as a compound spring. And the wire that compound top spring is made from is thinner, so it literally is softer. But this is one thickness of wire all the way, so you can't change the laws of physics, Jim. That's one rate, one end to the other. The way it works though, the way it achieves a progressively increasing spring rate as it drops, is by these top coils joining together. When they hit each other, these top coils are 3 or 4 millimeters apart, these top ones. So when the spring gets compressed by normal road ripples, that whole spring is doing the work, all of it. The minute it hits a big pothole, you get a big thump over a pothole or something. These three, as it travels down, they very quickly, they will join up together. They will literally bang up shoulder to shoulder and hit each other. When they do that, they become a block of metal. They're no longer a spring. They no longer move because they're hitting each other. Once they touch together, they become solid. Then you only have the remaining 4 or 5 coils left to do the work. So imagine, if you will, a length of metal bar. This is the easiest way to explain it. You get a metal bar, 10 millimeters thick. That's about 10 mil thick wire. So you take a metal bar, 10 mil thick, a meter long, and hold at each end and bend it. As you bend it, ever so easy. But imagine then being told, put your hand in the middle, then try and bend what's left. It's going to be a lot harder, isn't it? Because you haven't got the leverage. Now that spring, that's what they do. When you compress a spring, you're literally bending the metal. You're bending the coils closer together. So you can't bend it if only half of it is available to bend. So therefore that half, when that half is all blocked up together and held solid, that half is the only bit left doing the moving. And that's going to be a lot stiffer than all 8 coils doing the moving, isn't it? That makes sense? That's how it works anyway. Right, they're bolted on. They're set now at that factory set position. Everything's in the middle. I have set the preload itself very low because Penny's very light, so they'll just sit there nice and light like that. And if I need a little bit more, if it wallows a little bit, then I'll just wind a bit of that on, because we'll take that with us when we go for a ride. That is as easy as that. Okay, there we are. If you do that sort of thing to your bike, if you venture to invest 500 and odd pounds in a pair of shocks, then at least put the warranty card and the instructions in with your vehicle documents. A, because then you can find them should you need them, and secondly, B, because if you sell the bike, it becomes part of the provenance and the pedigree of the bike, because stuff like that, it does enhance the value of your bike. Is £530 a lot of money to spend on a pair of shocks? Hell yeah, of course it is. It's a ridiculous amount of money to spend on 2 shock absorbers. However, when you think about it another way, how much does it cost to have a full service? To take your Triumph to the dealership and have a full service is more than they cost. Guarantee it. Even an interim service is about £300. And if you start doing a lot of your own work and maintenance and maintaining, looking after your bike, you're saving money across the board. And that is money you can spend enhancing your bike, and thus the value of your bike and your investment. This bike now is worth that much more than it was earlier, because we've now got some YSS shocks or whatever else you might choose to put on your bike, your DID stuff, your EBC stuff, all of the appointments that you put onto your bike. When you customise it, make it worth more to the next buyer. So you are investing in your bike, you're not just blowing money on it. Okay, simple as that. And then what does a weekend away cost? What does a week on holiday cost? £1,000? So when you look at it in the sense of what else you can spend and what else you get for £500 in big purchases, pair of those shocks to absolutely transform the handling of your bike, I don't think that's a big spend at all. That's a wise and worthy investment. Take the trouble to tune them, take the trouble to get them set up exactly right, exploit them, make sure that the investment pays you back in a better ride on your bike. And if you get confused and you're not sure, and you can't make them work for yourself, there are people out there that can do it for you. Some of the race tuning companies can set up your suspension so well and so perfectly, you wouldn't believe how well it rides afterwards. And they have a charge for it. It might be £100 to go along to one of these race tune days, set all your suspension up. When you ride your bike home, oh my God, you won't stop grinning. Your bike will handle like it's brand new. And that's something that's worth it, it really is. But there we go, that ends the series of 6 videos on this. This will now come off the bench, some test rides. I'm not really going to make videos of that because it's not relevant. We're going to ride it, going to run the brakes in, going to set the chain sprockets, get that exact once it's ready, bedded in a little bit. Probably 100 miles I'll do on this before Penny gets anywhere near it. Then I'll be setting all the suspension up. After that, with her on it, she'll ride it, we'll set all this up so she knows it's exactly right for her. And then that's it, she's done for the season. After this, now the next video back on the bench, we're going to pause one more video. We're going to pause one more before we get back on the project. We're going to put the Harley Fat Boy on the bench. I've got something cool for the Harley Fat Boy coming next. So all the Harley fans, something for you at long last. If you've waited a long time for a Harley video, we're going to bring it back to you in the next one. We've got a really cool prize draw as well tomorrow for you. I think you'll like that, something very cool to give away, and after that some even more cool tools. So there's lots and lots to come this season. It's only just begun. There we go. Thanks for watching, thanks for all your support on these Triumph videos. It's great to hear from you Triumph owners again. I know you've been dormant for a while. We know you're there and we love to give you these videos. We really hope it's helped you in some way or another. As usual, any questions, drop in the box underneath, we'll try and help. I'll leave you with a wall of friends. Take it easy, ride safe, enjoy your bike, spring's coming.